musicians, athletes and quiz bowl champions all have one thing in common. Learning to play an instrument or a sport requires time and patience. It is all about steadily mastering new skills. The same is true when it comes to learning information, preparing for that quiz bowl, say, or studying for a big test. As teachers, coaches and parents everywhere like to say, practice makes perfect. Doing something over and over again doesn't just make it easier. It actually changes the brain. That may not come as a surprise. But exactly how that process happens has long been a mystery. Scientists have known that the brain continues to develop through our teenage years. But these experts used to think that those changes stopped once the brain matured. No more. Recent data have been showing that the brain continues to change over the course of our lives. Cells grow. They form connections with new cells. Some stop talking to others. And it's not just nerve cells that shift and change as we learn. Other brain cells also get into the act. Scientists have begun unlocking these secrets of how we learn, not only in huge blocks of tissue, but even within individual cells. Rewiring. The brain is not one big blob of tissue. Just 6 to 7 weeks into the development of a human embryo, the brain starts to form into different parts. Later, these areas will each take on different roles. Consider the prefrontal cortex. It's the region right behind your forehead. That's where you solve problems. Other parts of the cortex, the outer layer of the brain, help process sights and sounds. Deep in the brain, the hippocampus helps store memories. It also helps you figure out where things are located around you. Scientists can see what part of the brain is active by using functional magnetic resonance imaging, or fMRI. At the heart of every fMRI device is a strong magnet. It allows the device to detect changes in blood flow. Now, when a scientist asks a volunteer to perform a particular task, such as playing a game or learning something new, the machine reveals where blood flow within the brain is highest. That boost in blood flow highlights which cells are busy working. Many brain scientists use fMRI to map brain activity. Others use another type of brain scan, known as positron emission tomography, or PET. Experts have performed dozens of such studies. Each looked at how specific areas of the brain responded to specific tasks. These changes in the brain allow for faster, stronger signaling between neurons as the brain gains new skills. But the best way to speed up those signals is to introduce new information to our noggins, slowly. Many students instead try to memorize lots of information the night before a test. Cramming may get them through the test. But the students won't remember the information for very long. That means learning a little bit at a time. Doing so allows links between neurons to steadily strengthen. It also allows glial cells time to better insulate axons. Even an aha moment, when something suddenly becomes clear, doesn't come out of nowhere. Instead, it is the result of a steady accumulation of information. That's because adding new information opens up memories associated with the task. Once those memory neurons are active, they can form new connections, explains Bergstrom. They also can form stronger connections within an existing network. Over time, your level of understanding increases until you suddenly get it. Like Fields and Bucalo, Bergstrom stresses the importance of sleep in forming the new memories needed to gain knowledge. So the next time you study for a test, start learning new information a few days ahead of time. The night before, give your brain a break and go to bed early. It will allow your brain a chance to cement that new information into its cells. And that should boost your chances of doing well. He teamed up with 2 other researchers. Together, they analyzed 38 of those earlier studies. Each study had used an fMRI or PET scan to probe which regions of the brain turn on when people learn new tasks. Areas that allow people to pay attention became most active as someone began a new task. But those attention areas became less active over time. Meanwhile, areas of the brain linked with daydreaming and mind-wandering became more active as people became more familiar with a task. At the beginning, you require a lot of focused attention, SPRENG says. Learning to swing a bat requires a great deal of focus when you first try to hit a ball. But the more you practice, SPRENG says, the less you have to think about what you're doing. Extensive practice can even allow a person to perform a task while thinking about other things, or about nothing at all. A professional pianist, for example, can play a complex piece of music without thinking about which notes to play next. In fact, stopping to think about the task can actually interfere with a flawless performance. This is what musicians, athletes and others often refer to as being in the zone.